Under 30s will be offered an alternative to the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine due to its links to very rare blood clots.
Britons are still being urged to get the jab because of the risks of contracting COVID far outweigh the risk of an extremely rare clot. We're joined by Professor Anthony Harnden, Deputy Chair of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation, who made the recommendation to give younger people a different vaccine. Good morning to you. It's very good to have you on the programme. As you can imagine, this news has sparked an enormous amount of questions from our viewers this morning.
Yeah.
And I think this one is perhaps overall one of the most common sort of thoughts. This is Elia on Twitter. She says, if you've had the first dose of the AZ vaccine but now no longer want the second dose, what does that mean in terms of level of protection and immunity? Essentially, if people have been spooked by this news and say, well, I've had my first dose of AZ, I feel OK, I'm just worried about getting the second one now, I might just give it a swerve. What would you say?
Well, my strong advice would be to get that second dose. There's no doubt that these first doses do provide a good degree of protection. That's about 60% protection against symptomatic disease and a higher level of protection against severe disease. However, what we don't know is how long that protection is going to last for, and it could well drop off. And we do know that as we come out of lockdown and as cases in Europe rise during a third wave, we may experience a third wave in this country over the next few months. And therefore, to be unprotected would be to leave yourself at risk of developing COVID and of course, all the complications that come with COVID, including, I might say, quite severe blood clots, much higher risk of getting severe blood clots from COVID than the extremely small risk from this vaccination.
OK, lots of other questions coming in. Fee is typical of a number that we've had. She says, regarding the AZ vaccine, what about the under 30s that are at risk, have had the first AZ jab and are due to have the second one? What should they do now? She's got a daughter who she's worried about. So under 30s that clearly have an underlying condition in some capacity. You can appreciate their concern. Should they be worried?
No, I can really appreciate their concern, but it's really important to remember that the reason they've been immunised and the reason that they've been offered a vaccine this early is because they fit into cohort 6, which is a risk commensurate with an age of about 65 to 70. And so these people are hugely at risk of COVID complications should they get COVID. And therefore, we believe that all those with an underlying illness, whatever age they are, should receive that second dose of the vaccine. The reason for choosing the well under 30s, and I would emphasize this is only for well under 30s, is that the risks for COVID for them are very, very small. And therefore, the risk of the vaccine, the very, very small risk, it equates approximately to the risk that they will get COVID and complications. And so we just felt, as a precautionary measure, whilst we're looking at the data in much more detail, that for those well under 30s, they should be offered an alternative vaccine. This does not apply to those with an underlying illness. They should go ahead and get their second vaccine with confidence. And in fact, they're much, much more at risk, as I said earlier, of a complication from COVID, including a severe blood clot, if they don't get that second vaccination.
And would that second vaccine still be AstraZeneca if the first one is AstraZeneca? Does it have to follow that path, or can the second one be Moderna or something else for somebody who's already had AstraZeneca for the first jab?
Well, this is an evidence-free zone at the moment because all the trials have been done using the same vaccine. There is work undergoing at the moment to use different vaccine types, but we just don't have that data and we don't have the safety data on doing that. So by far the safest option at the moment would be to receive that same vaccine type. People should not lose confidence in this OxfordAZ vaccine. It's a great vaccine. Both the regulators, our regulator, the MHRA, and the European regulator, the EMA, have said it can be used in all age groups. The reason that we've deviated slightly from this on JCVI is because we looked at that very carefully, at that risk-benefit ratio. And we do this all the time with vaccines. For influenza vaccines, for instance, they're licensed in all age groups, but we express a preference for the over 65s and a preference for the under 65s. It's the way that we function as a committee. What the what the public need to understand is that the regulatory process is working so well. We've delivered 20 million doses of this Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, and they've detected 79 cases. And the fact that they've detected these cases amongst such a large number of people and looking at them in great detail just shows you how vigilant we are. And we just wanted to be honest and open with the public and make our decisions accordingly.
And of course, trust is hugely important here. The public need to trust that the advice and the scientists and the government are what they're telling them is actually what's going to happen. So we have been incredibly lucky here because the rollout has been brilliant of the vaccine and the take-up of the vaccine has been really impressive as well. One modelling study suggests that by Monday we will hit herd immunity. 73.4% of the population will have had the vaccine or will have already been previously exposed to the virus, which is a really fantastic result. How concerned are you, though, Professor Harnden, that this damages the trust that we have in the government and in the vaccines? And actually, the impact of this could be that slows down. The rollout of this vaccine is going to slow down, and that slows everything down. It slows down the roadmap to get out of where we are with lockdown and the pandemic.
Well, look, we're all fed up with this lockdown, aren't we? We all want to get out of this pandemic. We do know that vaccination and as well as slow restriction of social measures is the way out. We do know that there is likely to be a third wave that washes up on these shores. So we were very conscious of anything that we said on JCVI, which would potentially slow the vaccination programme down, which is why I'm here trying to communicate to you now. However, my duty on JCVI and the other members' duty is to be absolutely open and transparent with the public and to actually, when we felt that an action needed to be called, we would call it. So in many ways, the public should be reassured by this announcement that the systems are all working really well. The vaccination programme continues. We implore people to go out and get vaccinated because it is the way that they will protect themselves as individuals, and it's the way that they will protect society.
Except, of course, if you're under 55 and you lived in a European country, most likely you would not be given the AstraZeneca jab. And that's the point, isn't it? That in comparison to many European countries, a few countries have banned it completely, but the majority have said it's only for the over 60s, the over 55s, and anybody under that shouldn't have the AstraZeneca jab. And here we're saying under 30 shouldn't have. So there's a big difference, isn't there, in the way Europe views this jab and the way the UK views this jab. And I think that comparison is worrying because what's the difference between a 45-year-old in this country and a 45-year-old in France?
Well, I mean, these are very valid points, but you have to remember a few months ago I was on your show trying to defend that we were using it in the over 65s and the other European countries were only using it in the under 65s. So I really can't be accountable for the way that they make the decisions. All I can do is reassure the public that we have the top experts on our committee who pore over this data in incredible detail. And at the moment, we think this is the right strategy. This is an evolving situation. If we get more information and we feel that other decisions need to be made, we will make them. But at the moment, we think this is the right strategy. Every country needs to do what they think for their population based on the amount of infection rates that they've got in their country at the time and what safety signals they're seeing. But I will say that Europe is so far behind what we're doing in this country that many, many more people will die in Europe because of their stop-start vaccination strategies than they will in this country, where we've been solid, we've rolled it out quickly, we've responded to safety signals, we've chosen the right age groups, we've made bold decisions about that delayed second dose, and everything we've decided so far has come good. So I think the public need to be with us on this.
Yeah, and just finally, briefly, do you believe that there is enough of the other vaccines, we've got enough doses in this country for us to hit that target that the government have set, that by sort of mid-July and July, that every adult should have had at least the first jab?
Well, there's two targets, aren't there? There's mid-April for everybody in the first 9 cohorts, which I'm sure we'll reach. There's the end of July target, and I'm pretty confident that we will have enough vaccine to reach that. We may slip for a week or two. That I don't know. I'm not actually involved in vaccine supply at all. But I do know that there are alternative vaccines that we've got, the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine. And I think with a little bit of rejigging and maybe a little bit of 1 or 2 weeks delay for some people, we'll get round this. But I'm quite confident that we'll reach those targets with the current advice that we're giving.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there, but we appreciate your time this morning. That's Professor Anthony Harnden, the Deputy Chair of the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. Hopefully you've put our viewers' minds at rest with regards to the AstraZeneca vaccine. The advice is if you had the first dose, you should feel very confident about going and having the second dose as well.